How many times has this happened to you? You said, what I need is a great podcast on books. Well, it's here. Chatter on Books, and it starts right now. I'm Jamie McIntyre, your part-time announcer, and here's your full-time host, Torie Claude.
Okay, everybody, it's back. In just a few minutes, we are going to be talking to Emma Stiles. God bless her. She's in the UK right now, so she's staying up very late for us. She is this Australian crime fiction writer, often writes about young women taking on the patriarchy, which we love. Youngest of 5 daughters, love that. Her debut novel was No Country for Girls, and it just gangbusters, won all sorts of awards. And now she's got The Shark, which is 2 young women, very unlikely allies, team up to go after a serial murderer and interrogate him in ways that only bad people should be interrogated. It's wonderful. And I watched Jaws the other night in honor of this book. I watched Jaws. So great. And I watched it by myself in the house. No Brian, no dogs. Really bad idea.
You think there was a shark in the next room?
Yeah, in Sperryville, Virginia, which is big shark territory.
If they make this book into a movie, they won't have the problem that Steven Spielberg had, which was with the mechanical shark. They couldn't get to work and kept sinking. The reason the shark doesn't show up in the beginning of the movie is they couldn't get this complicated mechanical shark to work, so they had to shoot around the idea. And of course, it made the movie better.
It made the movie better.
Yeah.
It holds up so well. It's 40, 50 years old? It holds up so well. Music is insane. It was great.
Yes.
Absolutely great. Okay. But in the meantime, these wonderful voices, Claude doing the important work, Jamie and David coming in from the DMV, which is largely smoke-free. Thank you to our Canadian friends to the north. World Cup wrap-up. What do we think, guys?
Well,
David first.
I'm going with David.
Yeah.
I was happy that Spain won because they were the better team and they played better and they controlled the game as they controlled the whole tournament. They didn't allow a single goal. Now, I'm not a soccer expert. I'm not pretending to be a soccer expert, but the games that I saw, they were clearly better than every team they played. France was supposed to be really good and they dominated France. I did watch that game. Yeah. And, I don't know. Again, strategy, I'm not a soccer guy, so I can't tell you what the strategy for Argentina was, but seemingly ceding the ball to the other team for 120 minutes and hoping they don't score doesn't seem like a good strategy to me. But they almost did. They almost got to shoot out. They almost did.
Well, everybody kept saying through the game, okay, Spain is playing a better game. They're more of a machine. They're more organized. They're more coordinated, all these kinds of things. But you could never count out Messi and Argentina till the very end. But, man, it was chippy from the very beginning.
And instigated by Argentina, by the way.
Yes.
They got really physical early in the game. And to the point about not counting them out, I think something like 16 of their goals this World Cup all happened like in the last 2 minutes of a match or something like that.
Yeah, they were
16 of the 19 or something like that. Yeah.
Striking at the end, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And some Spanish players went down as a result of Argentinian contact, and they weren't flopping.
No.
Usually they actually did get just flop. They were really getting the hammer and coming down. That was a contact sport yesterday.
Yeah.
Mr. McIntyre?
It was fun. I loved it.
I'm not a soccer expert either, although I did watch all the seasons of Ted Lasso, so I have it going for me.
You're as good as Ted.
So I was all flummoxed about this red card thing, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if when you're watching a sporting event and you see what you think is a really bad call, that you could just call up the head of the league and say, I'm not telling you what to do, but could you just take another look at that, because I think maybe something happened wrong. So amazing.
We talked about that, I think, a couple of weeks ago, Jamie. We think it's the first time ever. David and Claude's vast experience in the sports world, we think it was the first time ever a president of the United States, because we looked it up, David. It was Nixon, tasked somebody else on his team to call up Pete Rozelle, whoever it was. But the first time a president of the United States calls up on a specific call and says, take a look at this. I just think the wild thing is the power of this World Cup experience, which was so huge and so much fun. And even so many people I know because I'm an amateur soccer fan, would say, I don't really even care about soccer, but this was so much fun. Mm-hmm. That didn't even, something like that, the President of the United States calling the head of FIFA saying, take a look at that call, could have dominated for days and weeks and months, and it didn't. It was kind of a 2 day story.
They lost. That's why it didn't.
Yeah.
I think
If they had won, they've been.
if they had won, well, the problem was it just if they had won, there'd be an asterisk by that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
I never would root against. One thing I knew about soccer was I was rooting for the U.S. I'm parochial that way. But I also didn't feel quite as bad when they lost because I thought, well, if they won, it would just extend this whole.
Yeah, that's true.
And now this settles the question. It didn't affect the outcome of the game.
I think, again, when you watch the last few rounds, and you're watching teams like England and France and Spain and Argentina, and you watch the U.S. men a few weeks ago, you go, not even in the same league.
No.
So here's my question. Did Messi have a bad game, this last game, or was just the fact that the defense was so good? Because
I don't know.
I don't know. I can't tell.
I would say he usually impacts games more, but they usually have the ball more. I mean, the main thing is that they never had the ball.
There was a point where he started to play a little bit.
The whole game.
Yeah. He started to play a little bit further back halfway through just to kind of initiate more touches for himself because he just wasn't getting it. There was nothing. They couldn't get it.
Clearly, Claude already knows like 10 times more about.
Well, I'll say this. So it was my niece's birthday, and we were at my sister's house, and everyone's watching the game. Well, the 20-somethings-year-old, they were downstairs doing whatever they do, but everyone else was upstairs watching the game. And Manny and I were the only people in the room who have ever watched a soccer game from start to finish. But everyone was engaged. Everyone was engaged. And I felt bad for Manny because people kept asking him questions about it. And he's sitting there trying to watch the game and answer questions. At some point, he just slumped to the floor and just kind of like hid under a chair to watch the game. So everyone
just want to watch the game. That's all.
That's all he wanted to do was watch the game.
What's tricky about it, it's a little like ice hockey. It's a lot of action and very few, one or two goals can make a difference.
Yeah.
Huge. Okay, here's our Messi story. Here's the family Messi story. Daughter Devin, a couple of years ago on a Saturday night, is at the St. Regis Hotel bar. Now, most of you, Claude, you wouldn't know the St. Regis Hotel because the last time, literally, I knew anybody who went to that place because it was for such old people, was Nancy Reagan. Swear to God. She used to go to lunch there with her pals. So for some reason, I'm sure it was pre-gaming, 10:30 at night, Devin and some of the posse are at the St. Regis bar, and there's some guys next to them and stuff going on, and this and that. And this one guy, like, spills his drink all over him. It just, like, the elbow hits the drink, splatters all over these young ladies. Oh, my God, I'm so sorry. Buys them a couple rounds of drinks. They have a great time. Life goes on. It was Messi.
No.
In Miami, he was playing for Miami, and Miami was in town for one of those games that they used to play that nobody went to, even with Messi playing. Yeah, and it was the greatest thing because the next morning she's on the family text and she goes, "Oh my God, we're at this bar last night. And this guy, some guy, and she might have misspelled his name, like Messi or something like that." Her brothers to this day just kill themselves at the thought that she was in the mere presence of him, and he's a little guy.
Yeah,
5'9".
You would not know that he's one of the greatest players of all time. But that's most soccer players. Most soccer players are little guys. So
yeah, because you got to have that low center of gravity.
When they played here in town, I got an email from my boss, asked me if I wanted to go to the game to see Messi, and I'm like, yeah. And I said, yes, I'd be very interested. And then I never heard from him again. I never heard from him because I quickly put together, I realized he had emailed me by mistake. Which would explain why he would be asking me.
That's unfortunate.
Not even one of his top employees, but we just never mentioned it again.
There you go.
No, Jamie.
If he's watching here, he'll find out.
This is shades of Brian, my dear husband, texting me. David was on the Kornheiser show with me at the time, saying, "Going to the Masters." Leading to me believe that we were going to the Masters, and we weren't. It was just Brian. It was a very expensive decision on Brian's part.
You didn't drop that, as I recall.
Technology can.
You didn't wish him well, as I recall.
No. By the way, that horse whose name was Grady, I named the horse. I bought the horse because I was pissed off at Brian, and I named him Grady because that's his mother's maiden name. So just thought every time. Like grind it in. He's happily living in retirement in Middleburg, Virginia right now, living a better life than we all live, but it's not cost free. So that was a very, very expensive mistake on Brian's part. I think you could make your friend pay, Jake.
Never, ever.
It was my boss, and I'm
on
not
your bad side, Tor.
I never brought it up again. When I realized what had happened, I just said it would be too awkward. It's like I realize this was a mistake, but I still like to go to the game. No, it was just
if the person you were emailing doesn't go, let me know. Yeah. But David, to your point, here's the thing.
Yes.
In many ways, many ways, as we know, I'm impetuous, short-tempered, everything. But when it comes to revenge, I have patience.
You're Monte Cristo level. You're just
yeah.
As long as it takes.
Right. There was a professor, I say that with scorn, at George Washington University, which I pretended to attend, and he was so mean to me. And it took over 20 years. I show up at a particular job, and it turns out he was working for me.
Oh.
Not for long, but
your chance.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right.
I saw a Pretty Woman the other night, by the way, which is
also holds up well.
The best scene was her getting total revenge. You were mean to me the other day. Big mistake. Big.
That is so classic, David, that all you have to do is go big, and everyone knows what you're talking about. That holds up really well. I like that one.
It does. It was still good.
Yeah, good. Okay. All right.
Prostitute with a heart of gold.
There you go.
Don't they all?
All the prostitutes I've known, none of them
every single one
like Julia Roberts, and none of them were just
every single one of them. Yeah, my sister Katie's, one of her first real acting jobs was as a hooker in Crocodile Dundee. Simone, beautiful, lovely, and heart of gold. Just a heart. Yeah. Okay, Jamie McIntyre, should we talk about books and bookstores?
Yes.
Okay, let's pretend to talk about books for a minute. Jamie, for some reason, you're hanging out in Laytonsville, Maryland these days. Where is it? Why are you wandering there? And how did you find this bookstore?
Well, Laytonsville is just a hop, skip, and a jump from where I live, because we live in Gaithersburg, Montgomery Village. Oh. And anyone who is familiar with Laytonsville. It's a very small little community, but it has a landmark right sort of where there's a big traffic circle, and it's these red barns that have been there, I don't know, for 100 years or so. They've been converted into little shops, and a new bookstore just opened there called the Brady Readery.
Cute name.
And my wife and I were going by, and we said, "Look, a new bookstore." And we went in, and it's a very fun, welcoming bookstore. In fact, it's decorated in this very eclectic style. It's very open. And the name, it's not called a bookstore, right? It's called a readery.
Mm-hmm.
So I was asking the proprietor, why is it a readery? And she was telling me. And by the way, the proprietor, the owner of the bookstore, is a woman named Michelle Brady, because it's the Brady Readery. She's a veteran. She went to school in Nebraska, and in order to fund her education, she joined the Army, and she was an Apache helicopter pilot.
Big deal.
And then she went to law school, and she's a writer. So she's got a book that she's writing. So she's a very fun and interesting person. The bookstore, by the way, is open every day except Tuesday, when the entire staff takes the day off. And when the entire staff is Michelle. But it's really fun. And she said, when they were going over the business plan, and she was explaining what she wanted to do, and it's got mostly new books, but also a used book section, and also a children's section, and also a children's lending library, and lots of reading nooks and stuff. It's a very open concept, and it's decorated in this really fun, eclectic style. And the people she was talking to said, well, what you're describing is this a community space where you have books, or is this a bookstore that has community space? And it's really the former. It's really just a big welcoming space with couches and chairs and
Nice.
with board games and artwork and it's a really really fun bookstore, and it's just
Nice.
it's not a chain, it's just them.
We,
And they moved to Laytonsville. That's where they want to make their home, and she's always wanted to have a bookstore, and so they've opened it.
go.
It's called
Nice.
Brady Readery.
In Laytonsville. We wish them well. We'll try to have her on sometime to talk about it. But God bless anybody. And getting to know some of these bookstore owners through the pitch, the writing competition, it is such hard work. Every small business is hard, but it is such hard work. And these owners all do everything. They do absolutely everything.
Oh, yeah.
But the word you keep, you started to say it, Jamie, it comes up all the time. They're the community hub. They increasingly are the place where people go when they physically want to be in touch with people. It's pretty cool. It's very cool.
So,
Okay.
and that's so great. And by
Nice.
the way, she has a really fascinating backstory and stuff. So if you did have her on, I think she'd make a very interesting.
Cool. Apache Blackhawk helicopter pilot. That's the real deal. George Rindance, our dear friend, was and I will never forget the things he told me about helicopters, how dangerous they are, how hard they are to fly. If you don't have to get in one, don't do it. Emma, how are you?
Hey,
Hey.
I'm good. Thank you.
You're here and it's late where you are. Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you for having me on the show.
So across, I don't know how they show up on your screen, but we've got Claude who does the important work, Jamie and David who do the smart work. But we are all very, very happy you're with us and talk about
Hi.
this.
Well, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
It's great. So, Emma, we've had many, many authors on the show, and a lot of them have had previous lives. We've had lawyers, we've had doctors, we've had mobsters, we've had athletes. We have never had a veterinarian who turned into a writer.
Oh,
How did this
never
happen?
had one. That's,
No.
that's surprising. That's surprising. So I think I was always, when I remember at high school having the thought when I was about 12, when I'm old, I'll be a writer. But I never, I liked writing stuff, but I never had the confidence to like write stories or anything like that when I was at school. I mean, I had to do it, you had to do it, but I never felt any good at it. And I was good at science. I was good at science and maths. So my parents and my teachers, they kind of channeled me in that direction of doing something that would give me a good job. And I knew I was not interested. I was not at that age very interested in people, and I knew I didn't want to treat human beings, but I liked animals. I was a horse crazy kid, and I was a pretty animal crazy kid. So it was not surprising that that's what I ended up doing.
I like to say that the older I get, the more I realize I like horses and dogs and 2 or 3 people. And 3 of them are right here. So there we go. There we go.
That was totally me as a teenager. Things have slightly broadened out a little.
My parents had the same plan for me because my dad was a doctor and nobody in our family wanted to be a doctor. And I'm bumping along and he goes, well, why don't you be a vet? Because I loved horses and I was doing the horse business, which is a nightmare.
Okay.
And he goes, why don't you be a vet? I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. So I go into a pre-vet program. Some of my friends here know. I got the first time I took organic chemistry, which is kind of a prerequisite for that nonsense. I got a C.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So I said, no, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to work harder, party less, get a tutor. I got a D. And the tutor, who's a wonderful guy, looked at me and he goes, 2 things. He says, I'm not going to charge you. Thank you. And he goes, it's a sign. And it was. So.
Oh, no. That's, and yes, it's a shame that kind of stuff is a prerequisite because you don't actually end up using any of that stuff. But there's a whole lot of things.
Not a bit. Okay. So let's talk about Australia. You're not originally from Australia, but you spent a lot of time there. And it is in every ounce of your writing, correct?
Yes, it is. So I was born in the UK and lived here until I was 9. And then we emigrated to Western Australia. And I was the oldest of 4 children. I still am the oldest of 4 siblings. And we lived on Pierce Street, which actually features in the book, The Shark. And the Indian Ocean was at the bottom of the street. And I thought we had landed in paradise, which was pretty well true. And And yeah, I grew up there. I went to school and university, and I worked a couple of years there. And then I came back to the UK, and I thought I was coming for 2 years. I thought, okay, I'll come back on a working holiday, and then one thing leads to another, and your life takes a different turn. And all my family still live in Western Australia, mostly in Perth, which is the
Perth
big city
is way out there. For those of us in the self-centered United States, Australia is far away. Perth is way out there, correct?
Perth is one of the most isolated cities in the world, which when you grow up in a place, you think it's the center of the universe, of course. So it didn't. That penny didn't drop for a long time. Until I guess I got a bit older and I wanted to travel places, and then we realized that we were a long way from anything. Okay. Basically, there's ocean and there's desert, and that's one.
And David just reminded us via chat, you're also a pilot.
Oh, so I did get my private pilot's license. Actually, when I was a kid, that was one of the jobs I wanted to do. I wanted to be a commercial pilot or an Olympic equestrian, neither of those things happened. But yeah, I got my private pilot's license. I actually did that once I got to the UK. I was working as a vet in a little town, maybe it's even a village, in Kent, Biggin Hill, and we had this little airport near us, and I was not loving the job, so I had to find something. I pretty well channeled all my earnings into getting my private pilot's license, which at the time was actually a fantastic experience. And although I didn't really have, to keep that up, you have to fly a lot of hours, and I didn't really have the money to keep flying a lot of hours because I realized that to be confident, I would have had to fly a lot, and I didn't have the money for that.
One of my many bosses was John McCain, who was a bomber pilot. Vietnam gets shot down, and he used to say it does not take any talent to get shot down. But people assumed that this was a passion. He would fly forever and ever. And when he was campaigning, he always had a plane and a pilot, often two pilots, those kinds of things. And people couldn't believe that he didn't fly the plane himself. And he just said, no, it's the kind of thing. If you're going to do it, you have to do it all the time. And he saw it very much as a technical exercise, and you don't mess around with that. No.
I think once I loved learning to fly. I had this amazing woman instructor. She was the only woman instructor in the place, in this flying school. And the point where we had to start doing the drills of what do you do if your engine fails? Look for a field. You have to do this drill where here I am landing a plane with no power. As soon as we started doing those, then it really sunk in that I was doing a somewhat dangerous thing, and that, yes, I needed to be doing it a lot and feel very confident at it.
So staying on the inspiration path, though, Thelma and Louise. Now, I read a lot of this online. If it's wrong, tell us. But I read somewhere that you were inspired by the characters in Thelma and Louise. Is this true?
I was. I mean, I do still remember the effect it had when I first saw that movie, and I was working in a country town in Australia. I was working actually on the north coast of New South Wales, and that was such a game changer, that movie. I had not seen women who were so funny and, such badasses in their way as those two characters are. And I think that just really stayed with me. So that channeling that came out in my first book, which is called No Country for Girls and is not published in the US. But that was absolutely, that is a road trip through the West Australian outback, and I was totally channeling those characters, their energy when I wrote that.
Why is it not for sale in the U.S.? And I can't believe that won't change sometime soon. With the success of that book,
I would love it if that would change sometime soon. I have, yeah, I think people can get hold of it. I think you can probably get hold of, it's easier to get hold of ebooks or, I think that.
Yeah, crazy thing. Just a small commercial break. The other day, I wanted to send 2 books that I have, old books, to somebody in the UK, as a matter of fact. So I go down to my UPS store and they tell me it's going to cost $300 and you can go to the post office and it'll cost $250, but it'll take 20 days if you're lucky, those kinds of things. And don't call them books. It was insane. And then went to Amazon. We're big fans of independent bookstores here, but I went to Amazon and they got there in 2 days. These are 2 ancient books, but Amazon could do it. Okay. Should we talk about the shark?
Yeah, sure. Great.
It's fabulous. Jamie McIntyre gets to ask the cliche question. Jamie, you're up.
I always want to know, what is the book about?
Because we call Jamie 48 hours out and say, can you be on the show? And here's the author, but we don't tell him a lot.
That's the kind of incisive insights I bring to the show. Because if it's not for me,
they're essential.
Actually, truthfully, Torie would not actually ask you what the book is about. She'd just launch right into it.
I do.
So tell us a little bit about what the book is about.
Okay. So the book is about 2 teen girls, Carmen and Rach, who abduct and imprison the prime suspect in this serial murder case. And this is happening in their beachside suburb of Cottesloe in Perth, and the serial killer is nicknamed the Shark, which is where the title of the book comes from, because the victims of this killer are young women whose bodies wash up on various beaches along that coast. And Carmen and Rach, they kind of know each other. They don't know each other well. They met the year before the events of the book. They spent a few days together on a psychiatric ward, which tells you a little bit about them. And they both have very different reasons for wanting answers from this particular killer. And and as you may guess, things do not particularly go well or to plan. And I would absolutely not recommend that people try this at home. Definitely not.
No kid. It's wild. I mean that in the greatest sense. The shark is wild. They're very unlikely partners in crime, to put it loosely.
I know. Unlikely. Which is obviously a bit of a theme for me, I think. I just love throwing people together who are quite opposites in various aspects of their personality and seeing what happens.
And they don't necessarily like each other. They don't necessarily trust one another.
No, absolutely not. And I think they definitely don't trust each other. And they both have quite different agendas. So, and in their own way, they're both quite unreliable narrators as well. So you don't know. I think it is. I mean, I have had a lot of people say this. There is just, people are just not able to predict where it's going next.
No, and I found myself when I was reading faster and faster, because I'm reading going, okay, I'm kind of I didn't quite get that. And then I'd read more and go, okay. And so I found myself reading it faster and faster. They're not the most, without giving much away, but some things happen. When the movie comes out, it's going to be killer. But they're not the most lovable of people. Is it hard to write characters that you don't really want to love and root for?
You know, it's funny. I think I kind of always do love my characters, but this is interesting. I'm not immediately though, but I spend a lot of time with them. So for me, I think I have to come to love, at least if not all of them, certain aspects of them. But I found these 2 characters really hard to pin down and quite hard to get to know at all, which was a very big contrast from my first book where the characters kind of appeared very much fully formed on the first page and took me on this journey. So writing Carmen and Rach was very different, and I had to work very hard for a long time even before writing, because I knew that I had to find a big enough, vaguely credible reason for each of them to do such an extreme thing that was so risky. And I wanted, I do want the reader to be taken along on that journey, at least enough to keep turning the pages. So, and I did and so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why they would each do this. So I ended up spending a lot of time getting to know them. And so then it can become funny when people are like, oh, they're not very likable characters. And I'm like, hang on a minute. But I can totally see why people say that about them.
So again, going after the patriarchy, which, the daughter, the youngest of 5 daughters and the mother of 1, I totally love. Law enforcement wasn't getting the job done, and they were fed up with that. And they were fed up with these crimes.
Absolutely.
So that was something they both had. But again, I'm trying hard not to give things away. They do some crazy, risky, wild, brutal things, which is just spectacular. Did the characters drive the plot, or did the plot drive the characters, or neither?
I think, well, interestingly, as I'm sure you will know, because every writer tells the story of every book being different, and it totally is. The writing of every book is different. And so I would normally think of myself as someone who starts with the setting or starts with the characters. And in this case, I did not. I started with that idea that they were going to abduct and imprison this guy because they wanted answers from him. So I definitely started off with the plot and leading, and then I had to get the characters together and figure them out so that they would be on board with this plot. And then definitely the characters kind of overtook, and then it became them. Absolutely, it became them driving. I think that's almost always the way that I write, and I may have a plan, but the plan is constantly rewritten because the characters don't want to do what I have planned for them. Interestingly, this book actually was quite different because I am not a pantser, and I do like to have a plan.
It's our favorite word on this show, Emma, pantser. It's our favorite word.
Excellent. All right. I did not know that.
You're not a pantser.
I'm not generally
spreadsheets and index cards and things like that?
Oh, absolutely not to that extreme. No. Those kind of things that's a step too far. But, I mean, they totally work for a lot of people. But I had to pants a lot of the first draft of this book, which felt really terrifying because it's not really my way. But it wouldn't be pinned down. I didn't know. I wrote probably 80% of the first draft without knowing who the killer really was, how or where the murders happened, and how this person got away with what they were doing. I did not know any of that until I got to about 80% of the way through the first draft. And I know that writers do that, but and people say, well, it's a great way of writing because you really surprise yourself. And if you surprise yourself, you're going to surprise the reader. And I think that's really true.
It's very true.
But
right to the very end.
Scary.
Yeah, to the very end. You're like, oh, didn't see that coming. Okay, I'll just say one thing, and then Jamie and then David, because I talk too much on these shows, Emma. So I was telling my husband about the book, and I'm reading them sections like that. And the only people who have read the book will understand this. But a few months ago, I tackled 3/4 of a mile of ancient barbed wire fencing. And I had to buy this incredibly powerful bolt cutter, essentially. And so there's a scene, I'll just leave it at that. There's a scene in the book where I go, oh, yeah, that could happen. That absolutely could happen.
There you go. You know all about it.
It's a nice little teaser. Okay, McIntyre first, then David.
So I was intrigued when you said you had to get to know your characters, and that you discovered the plot as you went along. So my question is, do you feel like you create the characters, or do the characters find you and reveal themselves to you? Or is that just a stupid question?
No, that's a good question. I think that usually it feels like the latter. It feels like the characters kind of find me and come to me. But this was definitely different. I did have, I think with Rachel's character was like that. She was kind of around in my psyche, and she was the right character for this story. With Carmen's character, it did feel a bit more like I was creating her, which doesn't feel entirely comfortable for me. Interestingly, it felt like quite a hard process. But then once I had done, and it took a long time. And I remember, because I was writing some of this, I was staying with my mum in Perth in Western Australia a couple of summers, like the summer at the end of 2021 and then again at the end of 2022. I spent quite long summers staying with my mum. And we had some really, really hot weather. I was walking to the local library and I was doing a lot of writing there. And I just remember, I'm sure it wasn't this long, but what felt like months of kind of spending time with Carmen. There was a version of Carmen that was much too scary, and I had to completely decide to get rid of her and start again, because I thought, I'm not enjoying spending time with this character. She's frightening me. This is no good. This is not going to work.
Yeah, great. That's a great story within the story.
There was quite a process. This book, there was quite a process writing this book, I can tell you.
David?
Right. So you've sort of stumbled into what I was going to ask you, which is these characters who are young teenagers and young women growing up. And I wonder if they did and think about doing things that you always wanted to do, or do they think and do things that you're afraid you might do if you're left to your own devices?
That's a great question.
Oh, I love that question. Yeah, that's a great question. No one has asked me this yet, which is surprising, isn't it, really? But, well, I think probably a little bit of both. So, even though this has not even occurred to me before, but I think you're probably onto something. Part of the influence for writing this book was that when I was growing up in the suburbs where I lived in Perth, we had one in the 80s and one that began in the 90s. We had these two serial murder cases that happened. And it was always at that time young women who were being abducted and murdered, and this was happening literally in the suburbs adjacent to where I lived. And so I think that's that sense of a community, especially with the Claremont murders, which happened it's not that the murders happened over a long time, it's just that the police investigation took over 20 years to catch the person, the perpetrator. So that sense of a community and behaving in a particular way because there's a killer out there that has not yet been identified was just something that I went into my psyche, I think. And so when I came to write this book, it was influenced by that. I didn't want it to be about that. Like, I didn't want to write a true crime. Yeah. I wanted to distance myself from those crimes and the victims and their families. I didn't want it to be about what they had gone through. So I tried to make it, in a sense, quite far-fetched in many ways, but it was definitely influenced by my experience of living through those times. And so I think your question in terms of, wanting to write characters who turn the tables, right. Absolutely, there is elements of both those things in there.
One of the things that reminded me of, Emma, 2002, I guess, we're all in the Washington, D.C. area. And they called him the sniper, turned out to be two, but for several weeks, couple of months, was terrorizing the area. and in many ways had more of a psychological impact on the area than 9/11 did, because it was the randomness of it. But when I was reading The Shark and how it influenced the community, and some people were dealing with it head on, and some people were pretending like it wasn't happening, it was very similar to when the sniper was roaming. And it was, you could never tie together the pieces. One day it's this kind of person at a gas station, the next time it's this person at a craft store, and it was paralyzing in so many ways.
It is. It's real. It's just, that like, it's exactly what you say. It's the randomness of that. It's what you don't know is really frightening, because you don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Okay. We're keeping you up so late. So I'm holding up, for those on News Channel, to see the dog-eared corner of my copy of The Shark. And that is because Lulu, as fans of the show know, if Lulu likes a book,
Lulu. Oh my God.
She's like adorable. The book, she just ignores it. But she immediately set upon the shark and ate the corner. So
well, I feel honored. I'm very honored about that.
Right. It is an honor. Okay. Did you learn anything? I'll get you out with this on the book, and then we're going to subject you to 60 seconds more, even though we're keeping you up late. Did you learn anything about yourself when you were done writing The Shark?
Yeah, I think I did. I learned that I kind of probably already knew this, but how stubborn I am, because I had this idea and I knew it was a good idea, but I did have a lot of trouble writing the book, but I would not give up on it. I just would not give up on it. So I learned that I could do something that for many, many months I honestly thought I could not do. So that...
What kept you going? What kept you going?
What kept me going?
Yeah.
I think the characters, and once I had a handle on them, I just trusted them, even though they don't trust each other, but I trusted them. I thought if I just stuck with them, and because I was pantsing, like I said, a lot of that first draft, I just had to really let them show me what the hell was going on, which fortunately they eventually did.
On the one hand, I think it's fabulous that these characters had such influence on you. On the other hand, it's probably a little scary.
It is scary, yes. I totally understand why you might say that.
Hey, Chatterheads, it's Jamie here with a couple of quick items before you go. First of all, thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate your time. There are, however, a few things you can do to help us keep Chatter chugging along. Of course, you can follow us in all the usual places, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Join us on Patreon for bonus outtakes from the show, including Torie's rapid-fire lightning round with the guest and some pre- and post-show persiflage that we usually edit out. Go to chatteronbooks.com to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, where you'll get a sneak peek at the upcoming authors. And don't forget, if you're buying books, please try bookshop.org. It's easy, it's online, and the best thing is you'll be supporting your favorite independent bookstores and affiliates like Chatter on Books. So download us wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a review on Apple if you're feeling so disposed. But, most importantly, just stay in touch. Send questions, comments, ideas, and even insults to info@chatteronbooks.com. That's info@chatteronbooks.com. And thanks again for listening. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
Emma Stiles, you were so nice to be with us and stay up late. Thank you. The Shark is fabulous.
Oh, thank you, Torie. It's been great chatting to you guys. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
All right, go to bed.
I will. Good night.
Right, guys. Before everybody else goes, a couple of things. Steve Israel was going to be with us tonight, but he couldn't because he's on a plane somewhere. But he has nominated Bruce Feiler for the pitch for the writing competition. We had Bruce on the show. I got to interview him at the Gold Coast Book Fair, which nobody attended, but it was really fun anyhow. So that's a good one. We are back in a couple of weeks with Thomas Mallon. Really, really interesting guy. One of the most prolific writers. Big-time New Yorker writer, 6 or 7 books of fiction, multiple books of nonfiction. Very, very cool guy. And he has 2 books, The Very Heart of It, which is a bunch of his own diary entries from the 1980s New York. Very cool. And A Book of One's Own, in which he analyzes other people's diaries. And it goes back centuries, looks at modern day. Very cool. Lou Byard's going to come back to us on that show. But I hope everybody goes out and buys The Shark. Lulu loved it. It's got the Lulu seal of approval. It's very
3 bites from Lulu.
She does not. That should be it. She doesn't chew on every book.
That's right.
And I won't name which one she hasn't touched, but there have been some she's not touched. All right, you guys. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you in a couple weeks. We're out.
And we're out.